which brings me to the next question, Kashi.
Mhm.
Distinguish for me the two words, I and me.
Mhm.
What is the distinction between I and me? Like they say, I am
I.
that. They
Mhm.
don't say that is me. You don't say that is
Mhm.
me, you say I am that. So I and me are distinct.
So
What is the
I always, I can stand without relation to anything else, but me stands in relation to something else. So me is relative and I is absolute.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. So deconstruct for us SoHam. I am that.
Mhm. The If you look at this whole of existence, then the question comes, where does this existence lie? I'm seeing the Ganga in front of me. I'm in Rishikesh right now. I see the Ganga flowing outside. Is that Ganga flowing outside or is it inside me? So if I actually look at it, the perception of whatever I have is actually happening inside me. So in a certain sense, everything that I see is actually happening inside me. Everything that I hear, the perception of that is actually happening inside me. So the whole of this universe is actually inside me. So I am all that I see is I am.
That's an amazing answer, Kashi. This is brilliant. Yeah, it's very nice. And it is so nice that I'm actually at a loss for words, which is not a very normal thing for me. You have totally broken my line of thought. I had the next question lined up, and now I totally don't remember it. So you've done your part, Kashi. Well done. Yeah. So coming back to, you wrote this. You didn't write it, but there is this. Remember, this is like a memory
Oh,
jog for you.
yes, of course. Yeah.
And at
I
the
guess a
back,
lot of us wrote it together.
yeah. At the back of it is the thing that really makes it all true. It's written, time is the greatest mystery, and in its lap exist all other mysteries. This is brilliant. This one thing summarizes it all.
Absolutely.
So, talk to us about, I also had this discussion with Birju the other day,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
we talked about Brahma time and how you say that 1 year of Brahma time is 3.1 trillion human years or something like that.
Right.
Which to me did not
Mhm.
compute. To me, there is no such thing as a bearded fellow sitting up there called Brahma. Brahma simply is a name that is given to a bigger time cycle, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, what is the reason for correlating my time with the bigger time cycle? I don't care about this ratio. This 3.1 trillion to me doesn't even make any sense. What is the need for this 1:1 relationship between X of mine
Absolutely.
is.
For an for an amoeba, all the things that we say has no relation. It's just too wide apart for it. Yet an amoeba exists, it goes through its whole life cycle and it does perform a function. And if you look at it that way, there are just various cycles, various scales of existence. And at every scale, we have no idea what exists. For a long time, classical mechanics was the only reality. But then quantum mechanics came along and classical physics realized that it's only at certain scale that it's operative. But doesn't mean that quantum mechanics is right and classical physics is wrong. They each have their own scales at which they operate. And though we don't operate at quantum scales, but understanding that allows us to do some things which were not possible otherwise. In the same way, I feel that knowledge by itself, even if it's not relevant to our scale, by knowing it, we are actually able to operate at various scales. And for me, this is the reason why knowledge for knowledge's sake is something that truly transforms life. A lot of things that we are doing today this very call that we are doing, this very process of me sitting in India and having a conversation with you, 100 years back would have felt like magic, and people would have said, "No way, you're a shaman." Or
Yeah,
if it was 300 years back in France, they would probably burn you on a stake.
on a stake. Yeah. Yeah, this is
So
great.
I
So
guess a
this,
lot of times uh, today's scientists also seem to be a similar category where they want to burn people at the stake just for disagreeing with them.
right,
So I
right.
think I think there is truly not much difference between those 300 years back and today, where people get so passionate about
One way,
denigrating exactly my way or the highway.
my way or the highway, right? But so, what is interesting to me, Kashi, is that the seers, they delineated into three things. They didn't delineate into 500. They said there is three. There is
Mhm,
the vastness of the Brahma scale, then there is the
mhm.
Vishnu scale, and then there is the Shiva scale, and everything just is in between these three. They didn't go into sub Shiva or Vishnu prime or Brahma derivative
But
or all this kind of stuff.
but actually, though, like only three are named after the deities, but you still see that there is a samvatsar, there is a 60-year cycle
And
after
there's a
which it repeats, and so on.
5 year
So
cycle.
they actually did talk about many different time scales. It's very interesting how the 60 years came into existence. So if you look at all the again, if you may allow me, I'll go a little bit more into detail in this, how these time scales come about.
Yeah, yeah. Go
It
ahead.
all talks about the graha, Navagraha, which is the celestial objects in the sky. And they're not actually planets. Graha means that which upholds. So just like the hands of a watch, uh, by their various position, they uphold the time. They are actually able to define the time. In the same way, the position of the various celestial objects, that's why sun is a graha, moon is a graha, though they're not planets at all. So all the grahas have their own cycles, and Saturn has a cycle of X years,
Yeah.
Jupiter has a cycle of 12 years, and so on. And if you actually look at it, in 60 years, all of these come back to the similar position they were 60 years back. And that's why 60 years is a cycle. In the same way, at an astronomical scale, maybe the whole of the Milky Way is probably moving at a certain time, and they were able to cognize uh, that cycle. Oops, I think I'm lost again.
No, it's good. It's coming.
It was my, it's okay.
It's a little bit
Okay.
choppy, but it's good.
So, so my thought was that just because we don't know the cycles doesn't mean they don't exist. And they probably represent some actual physical cycles in this universe.
Right, right, yeah. But what is fascinating to me is that this was done even before there was the abacus to count, or there was the slide rule to compute, or there was a log table to refer, and these guys just sat and they just got it. It's amazing. I mean, the
Mhm.
it to me, in my mind, it's the signal to noise ratio. The signal is there, the noise is very heavy in our head, so we don't listen to the signal, and these guys just reduced the noise and the signal just shone through. It is brilliant.
Absolutely. In fact, the Yoga Sutras, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, talks about the various siddhis and how Sanyam on various things can give knowledge of stars, can give knowledge of the universe, can give. So I feel, and I remember Gurudev once talking about this in satsang, and he said that the mind is like a frequency analyzer. And when we can tune into various aspects of what this universe is, we are able to perceive and cognize. And that's why meditation is probably the the tool that people use. Today we use electron microscopes, but I guess they use the mind as a tool to perceive,
Yeah.
because finally it all boils down to perception, and the tool for perception is the mind. So whether we use an instrument to transform perception, but finally it boils down to the perception in the mind. And so our rishis, ancient seers, they didn't beat around the bush, but they got right to the point and said, hey, let's get to the source.
And it even if you take an electron microscope, at the end of the day, you are signal processing. It's not that it's telling you what is, it's giving you
Exactly.
some information and somebody is signal
Mhm.
processing. Same thing is happening in meditation. You're getting something and somebody has to signal process. That the physics doesn't change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I mean, I work with electron microscopes. I'm looking at these membrane structures and this thing, and what the professor told me when I did my first electron microscopy. This was in India. I had gone to the Agarkar Research Institute because they had the SEM and all that, and he explained to me
Mhm.
that, and he was a senior professor, so he was talking to me as if I'm a kid, like I was a kid at that time. He says, beta, it's like this, and he told me what you're seeing in an electron microscope is not the reality. Don't get fixated on it, because it is somebody who is interpreting some signal that is coming. And to me that was like a aha moment. I said, wow, man, this is amazing.
Because we usually think of a microscope as something that we are just seeing, and that's the reality.
Yeah, yeah. Great. So what is the next thing I want to talk to you about? uh,
Wow, that's new.
Isn't it? It doesn't happen usually to me that I'm at loss for ideas. No, but yeah, it's good. Right now, I think this
This
is all
is
I got
good.
for now. I'm sure I'll have more, right?
Definitely,
So
definitely.
what I'd like to do is get you back frequently. We won't take maybe an hour like we did now, but for shorter sessions. And
Sure.
if we have enough questions, we could even do a live one. We could just get on with a list of questions and we could do like an interactive live. Is that okay for you?
Done and done. Sure, of course, of course.
Cool. So I had told the
Great, Sanyam.
people on my Physics of Pranayama channel that I'm going to get right now the channel is content light, but it's going to be content heavy.
Mm.
And I'm saying that I'm going to get left brainers who are right brain thinkers to get on this channel. And you are quite left brain. Yeah. So anyway, it was great, Kashi, after so many
Great.
years to just sit and talk like that. I wish we had done this when
Mm.
I was at IIT, but at that time I was so not into this stuff, and I thought all this is just cuckoo stuff, and I ran away from all you guys.
Yeah, it feels just like having a CAC session in the
It's
wing
CAC
at
session, yeah,
night.
exactly, CAC session. And I mean, at that time, I was just thinking when I was telling the story at the Physics of Pranayama talk that all of us were at the same place at the same time. I mean, Baba was there, you were there, Rajore was there, all of us were right there, and we never interacted. We were just in our own space. You guys maybe interacted a little bit, but I was
Yeah, we
totally
did.
not
Yeah,
in your space. So you
agreed.
did the course when
So
1995,
95, yeah.
and
After I finished 4 years of coursework, then that's when I did my program
and
and never looked back.
you also got Professor Zuvekar to take the program, right?
Oh, yes, of course. He finally did it.
And what what was his reaction after that?
He's the same as ever. I see him. He's just become more saintly, is all I can say.
Yeah. I remember
It was
when I was.
nice. I actually went to the institute. I think last year, just before I came to the US last year. I actually went to the institute. I met him. It was very nice. He still has a lab. He's retired, but he's still professor emeritus and still runs a lab and guides people. Very
Yeah.
nice.
I was lucky that I did my, the undergrad seminar that we do in IIT. My work
Hmm.
was with Professor Zuekar, and it was on stochastic processes.
Stochastic process, I
I
know.
could not even spell the word stochastic at that time. So I went to Professor Zuekar and I said, "Sir, I'm not finding any literature. The library has nothing on stochastic." He says, "What do you mean? Nothing." He got up right there. He says, "Come with me." He walked with me all the way to the library. He looked at those
Which
index
is,
cards.
if you know, if for the people who know IIT Bombay, it's the other end of town,
It's the other end of the institute.
that
And
department.
he just dropped everything he was doing. He says, "I will show you." came with me. That time there was no electronic thing. There was those index
Yeah.
cards, and he would
Yeah.
look at the paper. He would write down that something something dot something something, and he would
Yeah.
take me to that book, and he would pull it out and see, and he would say, "Here's the book. Read chapter number 7," and then he would walk away. And this is just amazing. And the thing with Zoekar is he tells you to read chapter number 7, but you will not understand chapter number 7 unless you
Till
read
you.
like 17 other chapters. It's a stroke of genius, that thing. So anyway, so Kashi, we'll do this cat session. I'm thinking we should get like even Birju and all these people on one
Yeah. Yeah.
time zone,
Sure.
and just like hang out as if we're. But
Absolutely.
we have to have a cup of chai, Kashi. Come on.
Yeah. I'm doing my off chai routine nowadays. I'm teaching almost every day, so it's it's nice.
Yeah, and all this. So even this Sanyam Reconnect that you're doing on the
Hmm.
live thing, is that the same portal?
Right.
The live.artofliving.org?
Live.artoflink.org is another portal where we do live programs and like e-learning kind of things. But we've done a Shish Yoga online portal which is focused more on yoga, whereas on live.artoflink.org we do a lot of Gurudev's programs and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. But it's been very well received, the Sanyam Reconnect. I'm hoping people who are
Oh,
listening to
we
this
had
talk
a
also.
sure.
So, so explain to me one thing, Kashi. I think how when we were at IIT, there were the real IITs: IIT D, IIT B, IIT M, IIT K, IIT KGP. That's it. Now there are like
Yeah,
these zillion
exactly.
IITs, and I'm saying, oh,
I
dude,
know. I was shocked to see nearly 25 or so of them. I think it's like,
like what? So I got the question for you. When I did Sanyam,
hmm,
8 advanced courses. Now there is
right.
dilution, 4 advanced courses. What? Why?
So I remember Gurudev saying that he wanted the Sanyam to be accessible first to all the old timers and then make it accessible to everyone else. So I guess he was just being compassionate to some of us.
But I mean, he totally renormalized everything, right? He said, forget the person who entered from the door. Khatam. Everybody's
Done,
renormalized.
done. Exactly.
Yeah.
I
But
guess he
I
needed to
tell you,
have a
Kashi.
little stronger dose for all the old timers.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I tell you, Kashi, the Sanyam that we did. I mean, you were there when we did in Boone, the
Mhm.
first Sanyam in Boone.
Hmm.
To me, it was like a cathartic experience. I said, oh my
Oh,
God,
of course.
like I've read this stuff just like that, but to do manana on it and do swadhyaya on it, and I failed on the first thing. First yama, ahimsa. I said, fail, done. Don't even need to go anywhere else. Pehla hi mein bold. I mean, it is. I mean, okay, I won't. I'll stop talking about Sanyam because
It
I don't
is
want to let the cat out of the
fantastic.
bag type thing. But but it's been great, Kashi. I think
Yeah,
we should hang out now that we got Zoom, etc. going. I think
absolutely.
this one virus has brought the whole world. Essentially, there is no more borders, right? There is,
Exactly, exactly. And I
and
wish that it actually transforms to physically much more interaction between countries. And I see that if it can allow people who generally need to travel to be able to travel, I think that should really make a big difference, is what I feel. I also see a lot of people getting back to the roots. So in India, for example, a lot of migrant laborers saying, "Hey, all of this is not what I really want. Let me get back home." So people are actually both physically and figuratively getting back home. So I guess many people are asking the question, having had all of this wealth and everything, what next? I mean, what's the point? Let's look for something higher. So I think we all have our work cut out for us. We have lots of work to do and really make that allow people to have access to this wonderful knowledge, which I feel has been really limited access for so long.
well, at one level it's been limited, but the other level is that it has been taken for granted. We don't realize what we have.
Exactly. And so I guess it's our own mind that limits us from accessing the knowledge. So my mindset, like see a lot of our colleagues from IIT whose mindset was probably that, hey, this is all bunkum. And let's focus on all this. And maybe all of us were also in that category at some point of time, and then it just flipped. So I guess there is something that allows us to see. I remember once Baba was asked this question that, Baba, you're so intelligent, you could have got a job anywhere, you could have done anything. Why art of living? He said, because I'm intelligent.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
I really feel it takes a lot of intelligence to appreciate and to actually look at other viewpoints than what we hold on to. And that ability to expand uh, our paradigms. I think this is what the world is experiencing right now. Because a lot of the paradigms that we used to live with have changed already. Uh, One of my friends, he's a game developer in Bombay. So he has a
Mhm.
company. He said, "Yaar, mere to chandi ho gaye. For me, it's the best time. People at home and playing my games,
Yeah.
and all my staff is at home and coding. I realize I don't need any infrastructure, so I'm going to sell off all the office space, and I'm going to make more money."
But yeah, it's so right what you said. This whole thing about slowing down is what puts things into perspective. And
Right?
we would never have slowed down till a virus said, okay, just stop now, just slow down.
Yeah. It was like a hard stop for
It was
many
like a
people.
completely. And my next door neighbor, they're very cute, three girls, and really nice people. And they have not watched The Sound of Music. So when we moved here 2 years ago, we just had a conversation, and they said, we haven't watched Sound of Music. I said, let's do a movie night, and you guys come
Hmm.
over, and we'll watch The Sound of Music. We'll get some pizza, etc., and it'll be good. We couldn't find the time for 2 years, that one day, or to watch a 3 hour movie. We couldn't find the time. 2 days ago, we set up an outdoor projector with a voice and thing, and we watched Sound of Music outside with social distancing. So they were in their backyard. I was in my backyard. We had a white sheet screen. We had a projector and sound. It took a virus and 2 years for us to do this thing, which we should have done like right away. Come on, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's amazing how when we slow down, that's what Guruji says in Sanyam also, slow down.
Yeah.
Then
Hmm.
the whole thing will come in perspective. It is just amazing. So Kashi, I wanted to also ask you, but not now. I know it's late.
Okay.
But for the next one, when you came to Delaware, you gave a very nice answer on the the caste system and how it all makes sense, etc. So we will just table that. But I want to say this because otherwise I lose my train of thought and I don't remember what to ask you. So I'm just going to document. This is just documenting my question, and then we'll get you on, and then you can talk a little bit about that
Sure, sure.
along with other things.
Definitely, definitely.
This has been great,
Great.
Kashi. I wish we had done this many
Same,
years ago, but fine. This
same here.
point onwards, I like that
It took a
formatting is good.
virus.
It took a
It took a
virus. Yeah,
virus.
it took a virus. I love this formatting in Word. You format something and you say this point forward. Forget about the
Yeah.
whole doc. This is my story in life. This point forward. That's great. Okay, so
Sure.
thanks, Kashi, and
Okay.
I
Thank you.
hope to
Thank you, Sandeep.
get you back. Your schedule is quite busy, but we'll find an hour here and
Sure.
there. Okay.
Definitely. Definitely. See you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.